Great ideas that move you. Straight from Europe's brightest minds. Experience top speakers from 8 European universities, sharing insights on topics that truly matter to you. The Ulysseus Open online lecture series brings leading voices from diverse fields, cultures, and disciplines right to your screen. Each session offers the latest research, fresh perspectives, and inspiring ideas that shape our future. In just 30 minutes, you'll gain practical, real-world skills in an online, flexible format, accessible from anywhere. First up, from good intentions to smart decisions. How to turn your New Year's resolutions into action, with decision-making expert Johannes Siebert from MCI, the Entrepreneurial School.
Good afternoon and welcome to our very first edition of the Ulysseus Open Online Lecture Series. Ulysseus is a European university alliance that brings together 8 partner universities across Europe to collaborate in education, in research, and in innovation. As part of this collaboration, the lecture series features 2 online lectures per semester, with high-profile speakers like today rotating from the different partner universities. Each session offers fresh perspectives and practical insights into our top experts across Europe. I'm really excited for today's lecture and to introduce our speaker. So let's get started. Our Ulysseus speaker today is Professor Johannes Siebert, an expert in decision sciences and behavioral economics at MCI here in Innsbruck. He has published in leading A+ and A journals and serves on several international editorial boards. Johannes is known for translating complex decision-making concepts into practical tools. He has advised major organizations, including one of the biggest European energy providers, the California Ministry of Transportation, and a global pharmaceutical company, supporting them in making smarter strategic choices. He was several times recognized internationally for these projects. This year, he was also shortlisted as a finalist for the very prestigious European Award for Excellence in Teaching in the Social Sciences and Humanities, recognizing his innovative and impactful teaching, especially for his highly effective decision competence trainings. He is also a TEDx speaker and regularly writes for leading newspapers. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to send them to the email address hello@ulysseus.eu. The address is also displayed on the platform. Thank you also for all of those who sent in questions beforehand. As announced, there will be a live Q&A session right after Johannes has finished his talk, and we will be happy to answer them. Please note that the session is being recorded, and I wish you all a very good, engaging session. Dear Johannes, the floor is yours.
Dear Sarah, thank you very much for this very, very kind introduction. Today, I'd like to share some fresh insights from the intersection from decision analysis and behavioral economics with a strong focus on practical application. In particular, I want to help you discover how you can turn your resolutions into action. To get started, I will ask you a couple of questions about your decision-making behavior. Then we explore 2 concepts, the concept of nudging and decision theoretic sound self-nudging. And then in the main part of this talk, I will discuss with you interactively 2 examples. And in both, I will share with you how you can become your decision architect and get much more control about in these decision situations. The first is about finally completing an academic thesis, for example, a bachelor thesis, master thesis, or even a doctoral thesis. What's the problem here? Every day we have to make the decision. Should we work on the thesis or not? And very often we decide not to do, and so we procrastinate, procrastinate, and procrastinate. And I will show you how you can get the job done. The second example refers to the New Year's resolutions. It's about sticking to personal goals, for example, exercising more. However, we will do that in a much more difficult option. Because, however, honestly, how can you manage to go for around 5:30 in the morning if it's drizzling and only 3 degrees Celsius? By the end of this talk, you will be equipped with some very basic tools, basic strategies which help you to better achieve your objectives. We're all in the situation of this cute little guy with a red jacket, and we have to face the question, what kind of life do we want to have? Do we want to have an average life or a memorable life? And this is the first question I'd like to ask you. You'll use slido.com, so ideally open another tab and enter slido.com and the code 1199, or if you have a second device, use the QR code with your smartphone. And you can see this information also on each of the questions. And it's worthwhile to spend the effort because I will use Slido several times. So the first question is, what kind of life do you want to have? A memorable life or an average life? While you define what average or memorable means. Not your mother, not your neighbor, not your boss, not your dog. You have to glance at the results. One individual wants to have an average life, or 2 right now. Most people prefer to have a memorable life. And this is something what I have somehow anticipated. That is why the next question. Again, if you have some trouble setting up Slido, we will lead it more intensely later, so try to find out how it works. Next question, how hard are you working every day to have a memorable life? Every effort counts, privately and professionally. For example, if you work for a memorable life, if you study to have better chances, or if you care for family and friends, if you raise children, if you care for your parents, or if you're a soccer coach for a youth team. Essentially everything counts except just sitting on the sofa watching TV randomly or flipping through your smartphone, just consuming social media. Let's have a look here. Wow. Whoa. This is really a lot. So I see that 50 people participated, so it seems to work. Thank you so much for your input. So I think we can conclude on this slide that many people spend a lot of effort. But the problem is, if you want to have a memorable life, to spend effort is not good enough, especially not spending even more effort. So there's one thing which is much more effective. And there, I'd like to share a famous quote of my mentor and personal friend, Ralph Keeney. The only way to exert control over your life is through your decision making. Everything else just happens. So instead of spending even more effort in having a memorable life, spend some effort in your decisions and you have greater chances to live a memorable life. So who should make the decisions? There are 6 answer categories. You should do that, your mom, your boss, your dog, your neighbor. Let's see at the results. It all went in one direction. You should make the decision. Let us wait for at least one dog. Normally, if I give this talk, at least one individual checks for dog. Obviously, today not. So yeah, of course, you should make your decisions. I totally agree. However, there are people who sometimes you may have the impression do not make the decisions themselves. For example, there could be people where the partner is making the decisions with, or even sometimes without consent. Or for dog owners, sometimes you have the impression that someone who owns a dog is not in control of his life anymore because the dog, of course, determines, due to the walking things you have to do, he restricts that it's a freedom of decision. So sometimes you have the impression that someone else is in control. This question was trivial. Let us have a look at the next question. So who should choose the decisions that you face? Sounds almost the same, but it's difficult. If you understand this question, it will be really helpful. And I strongly recommend that you spend effort to reflect on this question. So, okay, now we see the one dog. the rest of the audience said, myself, of course, you should make the decisions. Yeah? You should make the decisions about which decisions you face. This enables you to become your decision architect. And this is also the main theme of my talk today. So many people are facing a decision situation. They have to solve a problem. And then life goes on and they have to wait. They wait for the next problem to be solved and the next and the next. So, next question. Do you like to solve problems? This question is a little bit more tricky, but there are different ways to address them. 70%, 80% says, yes, they like that. Of course, if you want to have a memorable life, you have to solve problems if there is a problem, of course. But the next question, what do you prefer? What's much better than solving a problem? And here, please, we use a word cloud. Please enter as few as possible words, maybe 1, 2, 3, 3 words, indicating what you think. And if someone writes something similar, just write it again, and then the word crowd gets bigger. This helps also me later in the more important examples. So having no problems, yes, ignoring, having no problems, it's much better. And as your own decision architect, you can make decisions not just to solve problems, but to prevent decisions. So easy it is. So, and I read there's something with pizza. Interesting. So having no problem, this is what we intend to do. To solve a problem is like reactive. I want to share with you how you can become much more proactive and create your own decision opportunities. For that, we need to lay a theoretical foundation. I will briefly summarize the concept of nudging. Well, nudging will help you, and I will show you how you can nudge yourself to make systematically better decisions. In 2017, Richard Thaler received the Nobel Prize in economics for his work on nudging. He showed in numerous experiments that selecting an alternative mainly depends on how the alternatives are presented. And on the cover of his book, what you can see on the slide, nudging is depicted by an elephant mother gently nudging her offspring to do what's good for the little one. For humans, so-called decision architects are in the role of the elephant mothers. They help us and they provide a frame helping us to make better decisions while still remaining the freedom of choice. This is of utmost importance in nudging. Let us have an example. Many people want to eat healthier. However, they often reach out to unhealthy foods anyway, so they decide actually against what they want. So how can we help them? If there's a well-stocked salad bar in the entrance area of a cafeteria, and my picture should illustrate that, then the people reach out much more often to healthy salad in comparison to French fries and the roasty burgers. Here in this case, the cafeteria management was in the role of the decision architect. It can influence the decision-making behavior by positioning the food, aligning the preferences of the eaters. They want to eat healthier. So if you look back a couple of years ago, maybe more than 10 years ago, the Green Party, before a general election in Germany, came up with the idea, suggested a Veggie Friday. So in the public cafeteria and Mensa, there should be no meat anymore. You can imagine what the people think about it. If someone tells them what they should do. I prefer not to eat that much food, not that much meat. But if someone tells me on Friday I'm not allowed to, I don't like that. Nudging always, keep in mind that nudging always refers to freedom of choice. However, there's a problem. It's not always possible that there's a decision architect helping you to make better decisions. For example, in very personal or individual decisions, you may not want that. Ralph Keeney extends the concept of nudging in his new book, Give Yourself a Nudge. And the idea empowers you to become your own decision architect, and I will explain to you how this works. Many individuals are very reactive when making decisions. They see situations, decision situations as problems which are to be solved, and then without much effort, they identify the apparent alternatives, and then they spend most of the time in comparing a set of alternatives with very bad alternatives. Instead, we suggest that people should spend much more effort on the so-called decision front end, not only on the evaluating of a low-quality set of alternatives, spend more effort to identify what you want and how you get that, how you create a high-quality set of alternatives. And for that, you have to do three things. First, you have to clearly define what your decision is about. And then you have to know what you want. And these are your objectives. And third, you have to identify how you get what you want. These are your alternatives. Before we go to the examples, I have to talk about categories of decisions. The ideas of give yourself a nudge can apply for different types of decision situations. Let's focus first on the life-changing decisions. Examples are, what should I do after school? Should I get married? Which job to choose? Do I want to have kids? The magnitude of the consequences, your future life will heavily depend on your choice. So we recommend that you spend substantial effort using highly sophisticated methods until you feel comfortable. And then in the middle, there are the decisions worthy of thought. For example, which car to buy, or where to go on vacation, or where to go on a honeymoon. Yeah? So it's worth to spend some time until you feel comfortable, but you should not spend as much effort as for the life-changing decisions. And then the third category, which we like to focus on today, are the routine decisions. For example, a pretty simple one. Brushing teeth. What happens if I don't brush my teeth today? Almost nothing. So if you don't brush your teeth, at least if you're not on a first date, it will not matter. The single one, however, if you don't brush your teeth at all, then collectively the consequences are pretty high because your teeth will get rotten. And there we recommend you to use to establish a decision habit. For example, just 2 times a day, brush your teeth. But there are also other of these tiny decisions. For example, if you're in a supermarket at the checkout, some people analyze the 2 lanes on the right and the left. There are 5 people, 4 singles, but 5 people. On the right, there are 3 people and 2 grannies. Yeah? So what's better? And they spend really cognitive effort. Or if you're in heavy traffic, some people always try to change the lanes to somehow be there 30 seconds earlier. And they're totally stressed of that, and they have a much higher risk of accidents. Recommendation, what I'm doing, so if I'm in this situation on the highway, I either stick to and there are 3 lanes, I either stick to the left or the right lane. Yeah? I thought about it before the situation, before it appears. One last example. At the MCI, in our main building, we have an elevator and we have a glass that you can see it. And the students, if they arrive and they have their classes on the 4th level, you can see them entering the main building and they look, where's the elevator? And then they do some complex algebra to identify in which direction it goes, where people are waiting. So, and then they make the decision whether they want to use the elevator or not. And after using the elevator, then they will sit down there for 2 or 4 hours. So you can address this decision situation before time. So my decision rule is, if it's less than 4 levels, I go on foot. Yeah? So I don't have to waste so much cognitive effort. And these tiny decisions has also something in mind. Very often, in these tiny decisions, you decide against something what you actually want, and I would like to show you that in our first main example. Have a look. So I have to read that out. It's about finishing an academic thesis. Tom is a brilliant PhD student. He has conducted and carefully analyzed 2 empirical studies on decision-making behavior. The results are very promising. All he has really to do is writing things finally up. Unfortunately, he has made no progress on this for 2 years. He has to write a total of 6 chapters for his doctoral thesis. His doctoral advisor thinks it's easily possible for Tom to complete 1 chapter each month. MIT offers Tom a job as assistant professor, like his dream job, if Tom is able to write his doctoral thesis within 6 months. Now, I need your help. What do you suggest Tom to do? In other words, what is the most effective measure so that Tom finishes his PhD within 6 months? Please type there these short answers. Discipline and dedication, yes. Then make a plan. Yeah, you can organize, study plan. This might be helpful. Make a plan. Regularity, work every day, very good. Study plan, this is also, and then one participant suggests a lot of coffee. But the problem here is every time, every day, he has to make the decision. Do I want to study or do I want to work on my thesis or do something else? And of course, if a good friend of him asks him to help him with the statistics or something else, of course, he helps the others. He finds always a reason to help others. By the way, quick question. Do you know what's the time when the flats of students are the most cleanest? Yes, it's an exam season. Because the students always have to make the decision, do they study or do something else? Normally they do not want to clean up their flat, but if they have to study it, they may do that. Yeah? So very often Tom decides actually against what he wants. Yeah? And now I have a look again at your comments. Get up at 4 a.m. every day. Very good. I see very disciplined very often. Nicotine drugs, so many students are here. Nicotine, cocaine. Guys, please. Buy a dog may also help you that he has to get a rhythm, build a structure, set priorities. Discipline, have a plan. Yes. So there are many great and interesting answers. And I will provide you with a different approach, or like explain it using a framework. So, again, he has to make the decision, should I work on my thesis or do something else? And always he turns to decide to do something else. So now we change as decision architect his decision. For example, he may get a reward if he's able to submit a chapter after 1 month. Then he will do something what he likes to do. For example, if he's in the Alps, go for a hike over the weekend to a nice alpine hut, or go partying with his friends. So reward may work. So when he has to decide should I work or not, you change it systematically. And then another suggestion, you can also punish yourself. Yeah? Punish yourself. For example, he has to pay for something. Yeah? Then it may motivate him. And something which could be very reasonable to convince him that he works on his thesis is that he agrees with his best friends that they will have a party at the end of the month. And if he's able to submit, he will have the greatest time with his friends he can imagine. But if not, then his best friends will throw a party. He has to pay and is the only one who is not allowed to stay there. And you can imagine, he will do almost everything possible to prevent to be in this situation. And as your own decision architect, you can come up with this framework helping you to make the binary decision, yes, now I work. Or another example, but let me quickly look at your other answers. This is not mentioned here. So I mentioned as second, like punish yourself, for example, that you have to pay money. For example, think about how this may motivate you. you have to donate 20, 50, 200 euros, depending on your budget. Think about it. Would that motivate you? Honestly, for me, if I have to donate 50 euros, and then I help the cute panda bear babies, I could live with that. However, there's one thing, a tiny thing you can change, which would make me work day and night without any break. Think about it. Is there anything, how you can change it slightly as decision architect that you do what you actually want? I can share with you what would be for me most effective. So 50 euros to donate, and then if the money will be donated to something I really wouldn't like, think about what is the purpose where you would hate that your money goes to. And for me, I would hate it if for the next presidential election or general election, my money would support a party I would never like to support. I can tell you, I will be very effective in doing these things. So to sum up this example, if you decide on the mental level that you want to do something, you can intervene in your daily decision business by setting the frame. And this will substantially increase the chance that you actually do what you want. Thank you very much for all your suggestions. Final example. Have you ever failed successfully to implement New Year's resolutions? Have a quick Slido. Yes. So we can assume it's somewhat relevant for more than 80%. Now, the more difficult example. Of course, it's easy to go for a run if it's sunny Saturday afternoon. But now, a much more difficult situation. We assume that you really like to go for a run, but it's difficult in the situation. So, how do you manage to go for a run 5:30 in the morning when it's drizzling and only 3 degrees Celsius? Shoot. What are your suggestions? Get on the treadmill. I have 2 kids, no room for a treadmill. I avoid this. To run faster, very ambitious suggestion. Very good. Sleep early. You need a goal. Put on fitting clothes. Think about the benefit. Yes, what could be a benefit? Some students suggested that if they go for a run, they get a reward. They drink a nice white beer, a gescheites Weißbier after that. I said, oh yeah, great idea. Many amateur sportsmen or women are doing that. But when you're back from running at 7 o'clock on a weekday morning, maybe this is not the best idea, this type of reward. Emotional music that may help you get a routine, but how to start a routine. And then someone promotes Nike, just do it. So they choose a gym instead, yeah, but it might be closed. One student or like one participant suggests, yeah, imagine how you feel afterwards. Now I like to share what I do in this situation. Like first a couple of other suggestions. So you can, for example, can sign up for a marathon and communicate this on social media. I will participate on a marathon. Yeah? And then the people will remind you. And now I share with you what's the most effective formula. So always in this situation, should I go for a run or not? And I think the first answer from the slide was, get an appointment with a good friend. Yeah? How does it change my decision situation structurally? Yeah? It's not about, should I go for a run in the rain or turn around and sleep? Should I go for a run in the rain, or Would I like to let literally my best friend in the rain? Of course I go for a run. That is why it's very effective to do sports in groups, in clubs, or in classes in the gym. And now my perfect suggestion, which helps me to go running. So here, I have to share some private things, but I'm allowed to share these things. I have my wife allowed me to share this example. So before I met my wife, I was this type of guy. When my brother called me and told me about a great new kitchen device, like a juicer, where you can prepare fresh juice, and it's so healthy, I could imagine to buy such a thing, such a device. And then I will drink and prepare tons of carrot apple juice, and my face will turn orange. And then after 4 weeks, I don't use it anymore, and then it ends up in the cupboard, then the cellar, and I could survive with such a situation, like an impulse buyer. My wife cannot. So I highly appreciate my wife. I really love her, and it's the best wife ever. And now I take advantage of the opportunity to use her character attitude, helping me to go for a run. So she doesn't like that I buy something and do not use it. So if I have to buy something, I buy it always with in mind a usage plan for the next 2 years. So how do I force me to go for a run? I buy a nice running jacket, which keeps me dry for 1 or 1.5, 2 hours if I go for a run in the Alps. And now, what's now my decision situation? In the morning, 5:30, do I want to go for a run? In the morning, drizzling rain, 3 degrees, it rains cats and dogs, and they're outside dangerous bears and wolves and dragons. Or, also, should I go for a run, or do I want to listen to the comments of my wife, at least for the next 3 days? And I can tell you, you can see me running. The only way to exert control over your life is through your decision making. The rest happens to you. Be aware of this as an important step towards better decision making. And if you really want something, it's in your hand. You can become your own decision architect, the decision architect of your fortune. And the best place is to start with your New Year's resolutions. Maybe the power of your decisions be with you. Before we start the Q&A session in about a minute, I'd like to advertise another channel to ask questions. In the Q&A, there might be room for 3 to 6 questions. And therefore, I've created this LinkedIn link where you can post questions and comments, and I promise you I will go through all of them carefully. No comment or question will be left behind. And of course, I highly appreciate some interaction there, because that helps us to spread the word and that we reach more people. And one last thing, in the first comment on this post, I will, as soon as available, post the video. So if you want to glance at it, you can find it there. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward for the interaction.
Well, thank you so much, Johannes, for this super interesting talk. Very intriguing. And thank you also to our listeners for sending in so many interesting questions during the session for the Q&A taking place now. So I have tried to select those questions which have been on the most frequently asked topics. So let's start with a question from Anna, who is writing, "Thank you very much for the great presentation. That sounds very convincing. But does it also work in practice?"
Oh, great question. Anna, it was, yeah? So, yes, of course, there's tons of anecdotal evidence, and the examples which I shared with you, I think they are convincing itself. However, Ralph Keeney and me, we try to prove empirically that these things work. And I'd like to share quickly some insights about an experiment which is now under review in the revision process. So what did we do? In my courses, I ask most times the students, what do you associate when making decisions? And then there's also a word cloud with Slido. And the most words which are popping up there are fear, uncertainty, losing, problem. Problem is the most often mentioned word. So it's negatively connoted. And very, very rarely we find words like opportunity or change or self-efficacy. So many people perceive decision situations as problems to be solved. What did we do? We collected data from 700 students, participants, at WTH Aachen Management Center Innsbruck, and we asked them in the first step to describe one important decision they have made the last 12 months, which was really important, and they have to describe it in 2 or 3 sentences. And after that, we asked them to self-assess this decision situation into a decision problem or decision opportunity. And afterwards, we also, as experts, interpret the description of the decision and assign it to the category of problem or opportunity. And then the participants have to self-assess their satisfaction within the decision, in the relevant decision milestones. And if they frame it as opportunity, they're much more satisfied with the decision situation. You may think, well, oh yeah, it's clear. If I win in the lottery, I have an opportunity, of course, I'm much more happy. No, we found even evidence if people face the same decision situation. And of these 700 students, about 150 students mentioned that one of the most important decisions the last 12 months was what to do after high school. And of these students, about 60% framed it as problem to be solved. Now in 6 months, I realized I make my Abitur, Matura, high school is over, and I have to do something. My parents already asked me, so I have to find something. Or the other 40% perceive the same situation completely different. They think about the situation, oh, hey, now I have the chance to lay the foundation of my future. Yeah? And they see it much more positively. So, in a nutshell, as decision architect, you can interpret the same decision situation differently. Very often it works just that you broaden the decision horizon, where you're thinking earlier is much effectively. As your own decision architect, you gain control. And now think about buying presents for your loved ones for Christmas. Now it's the 10th, I think, of December, and it becomes a problem. If you start dealing with that problem, the 19th, the 20th, it will be really end up in a crisis. However, if you start with the same decision, what to do for your loved ones already half a year before, it's completely different, and you will much more like the decision situation.
Wow, great. Thank you so much. Actually, that fits very well the next question we have from Michael. He wrote, how can you actually learn to make better decisions?
Unfortunately, learning by doing only works to a limited extent.
That?
Why? Yeah, to learn a complex skill, such as making a decision, you have to break it down into small elements systematically. Let us take a small example to explain that. If there's a young person who wants to increase the tennis level, let us assume your 7-year-old nephew or niece. She plays every day 3 hours tennis. She will not increase her skills up to a certain level. So how would you train your niece or the young person? Not just playing all the time. For example, you could train for 2 weeks everything of the next level of the forehand theory, and also, of course, practicing. And then 2 weeks the backhand, 2 weeks the smash, and then you put everything together. Yeah? And then you reach the next level. Because in every game your niece or nephew will play, he or she can think about his training and try to do what was in the training and practice in the right direction. But now back to the core question. For decision competence, many individuals do not know the elements. Do you know the elements of a good decision? Well, these are the things I always say. Frame the decision appropriately, identify objectives, identify alternatives, and so on. But if you do not know them, you cannot train them appropriately. In other studies with colleagues, Reinhard Kunz and others, we showed that in my decision competence training and in Stanford and Aachen, people can enhance their decision-making skills, and then as a consequence, they are more satisfied with their lives, feel more self-efficacy, and feel more entrepreneurial. So in a nutshell, you have to be clear about the elements, and then you can practice in daily life all the time. Otherwise, you will not have an interesting learning curve.
That's intriguing. I actually have a really great follow-up question coming from Isabel. She writes, I am studying business, but we don't have any course on decision-making at my university. Would it be possible for me to attend one of your lectures through the Ulysseus European University Alliance?
Oh, I'm really pleased that you like the content, and we will certainly look into your case, but it's also mixed feelings because it's really a pity that you don't have a decision competence training in your school. Because what's the main task of managers or people in life later? They have to make decisions. But decision competence is not prioritized high right now. But it's not only in your school, it's in most schools in Europe like that. So and if there's a course on decision theory, it's mainly driven by math. So the key thing in decision analysis is to come up with a frame of your decision, the clear definition, objectives, alternatives, and then assessment of the consequence. And then you can apply 25 methods. However, most courses in decision theory and operational research basics in Europe, they give you, here's a table, and now we use 25 algorithms or decision rules, and you have to mathematically correctly show me what's the best. But when I went to the MCI I had years ago, there was also no class, but step by step we increased it right now in 5 or 6 bachelor programs, and we even included this sustainable decision making as one of the 3 core AACSB learning goals. And our intention is to move it forward that all our bachelor students will participate in a class on decision-making training, decision competence training. And for you, the simple solution would be, of course, to study abroad 1 or 2 semesters in Innsbruck, and then we have the chance to join my class, Manual and Ethical Decision-Making. I always have there 20 to 30 exchange students. And maybe we can also look into that if we open a course with a high online component with business administration online, where you only have to stay 1 week, and there maybe we can find there a way. Maybe Sarah, take a note, and we have a follow-up process on that.
Note taken. Thank you very much, Johannes, also for highlighting the mobility exchange opportunities we have within Ulysseus, virtual and physical. So there are tons of questions, but maybe a more general one, a final one from me before we close the session. What would you finally recommend to our listeners today?
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. The most general, the most difficult question. So let me start. So 14 years ago, before I met my mentor and personal friend, Rolf Keeney, I was very active in my decision-making and made many, many bad decisions. Even in critical situations, I did not think about what decision I should face. I wasn't aware of my objectives, and I settled for the apparent alternatives, thus missing many good ones. Consequently, I did not like making decisions, and I had little control over my life. Life taught me how to become my own decision maker. And there are 5 things, and these 5 things are also the elements of a good decision maker. So actively decide what decision situations you want to deal and how narrowly or broadly you want to frame them. Identify what you want. That was number 3 already. Identify what you want. Do not settle for the obvious alternatives. Spend effort in identifying more and better alternatives. This was also in the main part of my habilitation paper, Ralph and me. We showed comprehensively, if you're aware of your objectives, you automatically identify more and better alternatives. But these recommendations are just the starting point. They are much more sophisticated models and systems you can find in Ralph and my papers, and also other papers, and of course in my personal website. I'm Really happy to answer other questions. I think time's running out. If you have additional questions, just go on LinkedIn. Again, no question or comment will be left behind by me. So if you are more proactive, you may not always get what you want. However, proactive decision-making substantially enhances the chance of getting it. I hope that my talk empowers you a bit to make better decisions. The only way to exert control over your life is through your decision-making. Take advantage of this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Johannes. Yeah, as mentioned, unfortunately, we did not have time to answer all of the interesting questions, but as mentioned, go to Johannes' LinkedIn profile. As said, no question, no comment will be left behind. Take the opportunity. And otherwise, we really look forward to seeing you at other Ulysseus events or also courses, any types of educational offers. The next open online lecture will take place in spring. We will send out the information in due time. And yeah, other than that, thank you so much for everyone joining, and have a really great rest of the evening. See you around. Stay tuned.
Thank you very much. All the best. Bye-bye. Best regards from Austria.